If you are a homeschooling mom or you want to be a homeschooling mom, there are so many books out there that you can read to educate yourself about homeschooling, whether they're books about curriculum, different homeschooling methods, or just books to pour into yourself as a mom in general or as a homeschooling mom. So, what books should you actually read? I'm going to tell you. Hey friends, I'm Jess from the blog siloandsage.com, and today we're going to talk about books because, as you can see, I like books a little bit. Okay, I like books a lot, and we have a lot of books in our house, not just for my kids, but also for me. I like books on all topics, and I do actually really enjoy listening to audiobooks too, but there is just something just really amazing about holding a book in your hand and being able to highlight and write in it. Maybe you're not the kind of person who likes to do that, but I love to be able to write in my books, underline things. Yes, I even dog ear my pages. Please don't hate me if you don't. Not a library book. I would never do that to a library book. But today I'm going to tell you about the 5 books that I think are the best, in my opinion, books for homeschooling moms to read. So these are books for you if you are either thinking about homeschooling, just starting your homeschooling journey, or even if you've been homeschooling a while, these might be books that interest you. Now, why is this even important to be reading books for you, the homeschooling mom, not just books for your kids, books about their curriculum, books that are for your curriculum? Well, just as someone who takes continuing education classes or trainings for their paid job, this is our job. This homeschooling is our job. So we need to keep pouring into ourselves as home educators like it is a job. But also, because you can't really separate homeschooling and parenting, there's a lot of emotion attached to this job, right? There's a lot of emotion attached to home education. So it's really important that you're pouring into not only the education part, that you are learning different methods or styles or things like that, but also that you are pouring into yourself, because otherwise you will burn out. So reading books that are inspirational, that build your faith, that just kind of teach you different methods that might make your homeschooling life easier. These are different ways that you can prevent burnout so that you aren't just slogging along in your day-to-day and you're getting kind of bored in your homeschool, or even worse, that you get so burnt out that you want to quit. So hopefully some of these books will help you and will give you some inspiration, some motivation, and a good place to start if you're just beginning. So the first book on my list is actually not even a homeschooling book. It is a parenting book. It is called Simplicity Parenting by Kim John Payne, and I have read this several times. I read this a long time ago, and it really shaped my parenting style because, like I said before, homeschooling and parenting really can't be separated. They go hand in hand. You don't stop being a mom when you're homeschooling, because homeschooling is just a part of your life. And if you are a mom who also homeschools, these two are really one and the same. You aren't just a teacher, you are still mom. So it's really important that we are pouring into ourselves as parents, and this is one of my all-time favorite parenting books. So this book just gives a really good perspective to parenting, in simplifying your parenting beyond just the stuff and the activities. So the physical things in your space and the activities that you're doing with your kids. It really boils parenting down to the basics and helps you to recenter onto the things that are most important and really just letting your kids be kids. So this, it kind of has this tagline: using the extraordinary power of less to raise calmer, happier, and more secure kids. And that's really, that really sums it up, which is probably why it's a tagline, I guess. But who doesn't want to raise calmer, happier, and more secure kids, right? So I definitely recommend this book, actually, whether you homeschool or not. Now, if you are not really one who likes to sit down and read a book, or if you just don't really have a lot of time for that, look into audiobooks. I have an Audible subscription. There are actually some libraries that will give you access to audiobooks for free through their apps. So look into that. It has been really helpful for me to have audiobooks in addition to actual paper books, which I do love, but sometimes you just don't have time, or you're running your kids from place to place, or you have a baby who gets up a lot in the night and you're kind of walking around with them, or whatever the case may be. Maybe you want to listen to a book while you're making dinner. It's great to have audiobooks to be able to multitask and to still be filling yourself in the meantime. The next book has been out for quite a while and is kind of a hefty one. This one is called Educating the Wholehearted Child, and this is by Clay and Sally Clarkson. Now, this is one of the very first books that I read about homeschooling, and honestly, I've gone back to it over and over and over and over. Now, if you are homeschooling your kids from a Christian viewpoint, a Christian perspective, I highly recommend this book. If you aren't, you will probably find some things applicable to you, but it definitely comes from a faith-based perspective, so that if that is not something you're interested in, you will probably not be super interested in this book, even though there are some practical things that you could definitely take away from it. This book is so incredibly practical, and it really will help you develop your values and your philosophy around homeschooling. Now, this book, you can see, is so packed full of information. You can see I've underlined so much of this. You are going to walk away from this book really feeling equipped to homeschool your kids, from a practical standpoint, but also just from like vision casting into the future of what you would like your homeschool to look like. Now, Sally and Clay Clarkson, they homeschooled 4 kids that are now grown adults, and so they have had a lot of experience with homeschooling. But I also just think that Sally Clarkson, if you've never heard of her, you should really check her out, because she is just an amazing encouragement in general. And while they wrote this book together, and there is a lot of perspective from her husband, I think you'll feel a lot of her encouragement within this book. Now, because it is so big and there's so much in this book, I really recommend that you go through it kind of slowly over time, especially if you are looking for a book to go through over the summer. I think you'll find this is a really good one to digest slowly over a long period of time, like a summer break when maybe you have a little bit more relaxation time. Maybe you're not homeschooling, or maybe you're not homeschooling yet and you're looking for something to help you get started. This is definitely a book that I would recommend. The next book on my list is called Homegrown by Ben Hewitt. Now, this one takes a very different look at homeschooling and talks about the more natural life aspects of homeschooling, and does delve into unschooling. Now, this book was so monumental. I read this really early on in our homeschooling journey, and this was really monumental in helping my focus shift from just the curriculum and creating homeschool around our curriculum and like the things we were doing, like the actual procedural things, and making homeschool look like school. And I actually have a video about that, the 10 things that I wish I had known before I started homeschooling. So if you're interested, you can go back and watch that one. I'll link it below. But I'm really so grateful that I read this book so early on, because it helped me see that so much of learning happens outside of the curriculum and is just life. Like when we're just doing our life with our kids and we're getting out into the natural world, out into the woods, out into, a field, we're looking at bugs and we're doing all these things, and we're actually like living life together. They're helping in the kitchen, they're helping with the animals, all of those things that we're doing, that there is so much benefit outside of the curriculum that our kids are learning that actually really impacts them and their education. Now, even though this book talks about unschooling and has that kind of unschooling focus, you don't have to be unschooling to benefit from it. Now, maybe you don't even know what that, oh my gosh. So even though this book talks about unschooling, you don't have to be unschooling to benefit from this. Maybe you don't even know what unschooling is. Now, unschooling is a philosophy that kind of ditches the curriculum altogether. And there are kind of different, I would say, different levels of unschooling. So some people consider unschooling that you don't ever use a curriculum at all. But some would say, oh, well, I kind of unschool this area of our homeschool and then we do math with a curriculum. You can really take it as however you want. But I consider this like the life learning part of homeschool. And I think this will really, really help you out if you have a hard time thinking of homeschooling outside of the curriculum that you choose. Now, I talk a lot about delight, bringing delight into your homeschool. I talk about it so much actually that that's what my homeschool course is called, Delight-Filled Homeschool, because home education isn't just about cramming your child with all the facts, but you want to actually delight in your time together. And this book, The Brave Learner, is all about bringing that enchantment, that delight back into, or bringing it into your homeschool. This book will kind of guide you into adding things like surprise and mystery and adventure and even risk into your homeschool days. Julie Bogart is all about learning naturally, and she really has a lot of wisdom and encouragement. She is a former homeschool mom, and she gives a lot of really amazing and practical examples of how to bring the fun back into your homeschool days. So I highly recommend this book, The Brave Learner. And Julie actually even has a podcast that has a lot of really, really good episodes, and I highly recommend that as well. All right, the last book of my 5 books for homeschooling moms is The 4-Hour School Day by Durenda Wilson. Now, Durenda Wilson has had a lot of impact. She doesn't even know. I don't even know her, but she has had a lot of impact on my homeschool, especially through her podcast. And when she wrote this book, I had to have it because she has just taught me so much, because she is a homeschool mom of a large family. And I think almost all of her kids are graduated now, but she's taken such a balanced approach to homeschooling. She is just a wealth of wisdom, and she has a lot of great practical tips in here, but also she's just so encouraging, and encouraging in the fact that kids don't need to spend all of their day staring at curriculum. They don't need to spend their entire day sitting at a desk just learning from a textbook or a workbook or a worksheet. They can be living their life and learning and have a 4-hour school day and still have an abundant education, and just still have this like rich education that involves more than just a curriculum. So I highly recommend her book and also her podcast too. Now, some of these books are talking about life learning, natural learning, learning without a curriculum, or minimizing curriculum, because so much of life is learning. But I have a video to help you if you are looking for curriculum, because curriculum can be a very, very valuable part of your homeschool. It doesn't have to be all of your homeschool. It doesn't even have to be in your homeschool if it's not working for you and your family, but it does have a lot of value. So I have a video all about choosing curriculum, 5 tips for choosing your homeschool curriculum, and I'll link it below. All right, now I said I was only gonna do 5 books, but I actually have a bonus kind of honorable mention. And this book is called Home Learning Year by Year. Now, this book isn't really like an inspirational, encouraging, kind of a visionary book. This is a lot more of a practical book to help you develop your home education program, I guess you could say. It'll kind of give you an idea of what your child should be learning year to year, and it'll give you suggestions for like books and activities, and will kind of help you develop or even choose the curriculum that you want to use. Now, don't look at this book and think, oh, this says my child must be learning about shapes in this year, so this is what we're going to be doing, and I must do exactly what this book says each year it says I need to do it. No, use this just like a guide, okay? It's just a really practical way to, open it up and say, okay, here are some things I can be doing for my kids with engineering. This says grade 5, and it gives you some, things for computer and technology skills. And it gives you like 4 or 5 skills that you can be learning in grade 5 for computer and technology. So it kind of breaks it up into topics and breaks it up by year. Now, this doesn't mean that because your child is not ready for that in grade 5 that they are behind. It just means that you're going to do the things that they are ready for wherever they are. So don't look at this and think of it like these are the things my child must be able to do by this grade or this year. Think of it more like here's a guide of where we could be going and some things we could be doing. So it's just meant to be a help. Now, I will leave links for all of these books down in the description below, and I'll also leave a link to a huge list of books that I have in my Amazon storefront. I don't know if you've ever heard the term mother culture, but that is kind of a Charlotte Mason-y term for pouring into moms. And I have an entire book list on my Amazon storefront that is all of these books and more. Books for inspiring you in just parenting or your faith or motherhood or homeschooling. So there's some that are more practical, some that are more like inspirational, some that are more kind of like visionary, and some that are around like spirituality and Christianity. But I have a whole list of those in my Amazon storefront. And so I will link to those, like I'll just link to the whole list of them below, but I will link to each of these books that I talked about today individually. And hopefully then you can check out the ones that resonated with you the most, or you can read a little bit more about them and help you decide which ones that you want to choose. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to my channel so that you never miss another homestead, homeschool, or handmade video. And in the meantime, keep cultivating your home. Bye!